I feel like a win with that kind of team comp deserves an asterisk next to it because it's like you sold out if you're playing that, dude. It's kind of like what we were.
What happened to you?
No, this is like what we were saying about Liquid in spring, dude. It's like, yes, you won the game, but like, did you really like win the game?
Are you proud of yourself?
You feel good about that one, man. You feel good playing Ivor.
Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia, Season 8, Episode 26. And we officially played out Team Canada versus Team USA. Azael thought that Canada was going to slap USA super hard.
And America had to cheat.
Even though it was
sad,
it
really,
was
to
pretty
watch,
for fun.
you know?
It's still from the for fun game. I could tell.
Pretty for fun.
A little bit.
I could tell. I think it was obvious from the for fun game that we would not be getting slapped.
It was obvious that from the fact that America had to kill someone who was involved in a dance party at level 1, that they were shaking in their boots. They knew they were going to be stomped. They knew they had to resort to dirty,
You need to focus
underhanded tactics.
You're the ones for phoning.
Pathetic.
You were the ones for
Pathetic,
phoning.
Kobe.
We were being serious. And they were like, what?
They were dancing, and then JoJo came and started dancing. You had to kill him because you knew. You knew.
You need to work on your
About to get cleared.
You need to work on your war tactics, Canada.
Dude, that's actually the most tilting thing for me in solo queue is if I have a teammate who dies in a stupid way like that, like getting baited into a dance party, I can't take the game seriously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, solo queue, they're for sure gonna kill you. That's for some LP. That is worth something.
Yeah, I know that's what I'm saying, but like people fall for it all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah, it actually is.
It was
dum-dums.
It was fun to watch. I'm gonna be honest. As soon as I saw the picks and the role swaps and stuff, I was like, okay, I don't really care. Like as far as the Canada versus US debate, I was really hoping they were gonna be try hard and play for a little bit of pride. It was very much a all-stars for fun show match, so it wasn't really what I was hoping. It was still fun to watch, but as far as the Canada pride on the line, as soon as I saw the picks, I was like, okay, I'm checked out of that. But hopefully we will get an opportunity to have an actual like real show match.
Yeah, well, the only way that they will actually try
They have to care about the prize.
There has to be something that they're playing for, because otherwise it's a like lose if you try hard. If you try hard, you always
win.
If you try hard, no, I mean even if you try hard, because if you win, then you're like, oh, you're the tryhards, and then if you lose, oh, you're the tryhards and you lost. So there has to be something to actually force them to be try hard to get a real competitive match. And so we would have to have, some real stakes going into it, like a bet perhaps, which we did not get to make on this US Canada one, even though we were like pretty strong in supporting our different teams. But we do have the opportunity to make a bet on who's going to win the LCS, the playoffs, who's going to be first. And we've just been discussing this. Honestly, Team Liquid is pretty heavily favored, but Cloud9, they seemed, even in the interviews after the series, they seem like, yeah, we're definitely going to
Team as well.
in this team, FlyQuest. I don't know about that.
They're in the top 3. People are talking about them.
They are in the top 3. To me, they dropped below Cloud9
By losing to Cloud9, I would agree.
I can see why you'd say that.
Also though, just some of the plays that they have gone for. I know I feel kind of bad because I know like Whippo is so good about explaining his thought process. I love how he's always so open and comes on all the talk shows and talks about everything. And like he knows that like his top side Nautilus play where he went behind tower and is forcing this trade on Ornn, and then Inspired has to come and they basically like throw the game that was in such a good spot of massive jungle diff where he was going to be able to take red buff and Krugs after that and completely destroy jungle. But the plays like that are really make me question, FlyQuest, which is weird. My perspective on FlyQuest has come around to, I feel like Quad is their best player. Like Quad and Massu are really carrying
Should we save this
team.
for playoffs?
We can. You kind of triggered me with talking about FlyQuest, our top 3 teams, but we should focus on the bet.
Focus up.
Focus on the bet. Who is going to win the LCS this split?
Yeah. So we were discussing this because we were trying to think. Okay, is there anything we want to bet on for playoffs? So Meteos, you think Cloud9's going to win?
Of course.
We think TL is going to win. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a good old-fashioned face paint bet here. Mm-hmm. So if TL wins, we get to do Meteos' beautiful face paint in Team Liquid theme, and if Cloud9 wins, you get to do both of ours.
It won't be beautiful.
If
It won't be beautiful if I do.
I believe that.
If another team wins, if any other team wins, we all have to rock that.
Yeah.
So someone's gonna look stupid, or multiple people. Maybe all of us. Maybe all of us. Maybe FlyQuest will win, and then we'll all be looking dumb.
We have to get Whippo and Inspired to come in and do.
They can do our face paint.
They can come in and do our FlyQuest face paint.
That would be good. So that's gonna be the bet. We'll have to see when that gets paid off because Worlds is pretty quick after it and stuff. So I'm not sure exactly when the dive is gonna be, but if it's not right after finals, it'll be probably the first one to kick off. Going into next year, I guess. But either way, that's going to be the bet. 14.16 is out today. This is a patch that a lot of people were talking about as maybe pushing some more of these marksmen finally out of mid lane. There wasn't any like crazy lane swap changes or anything that I know some people were kind of hoping might get squeezed in. But there were some pretty impactful kind of like system wide changes. I don't know how big you guys think the death timer changes are, but that's something that is kind of interesting to me because that's something that really changes the whole game, right? Like it's 4 seconds additional death timer, levels 1 to really all the way actually. No,
it's only to 8.
It's up to 8. Yeah, 4 seconds extra up to 8, and then it goes to 2 seconds, and then I guess it's normal 10 onward. But for early game, the deaths are going to be more punishing, and this is something that like I immediately thought of with top lane because it's really weird in top lane sometimes. Like if you're playing Ignite versus TP, you can solo kill the person and not have enough time to push out the wave, and then they TP back, and you actually end up behind because the wave's frozen on you. You have to base with a frozen wave and then walk back to lane because you're playing Ignite, and you can end up down a level and then just like in a terrible position, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing a post from a challenger player top lane about, like how to play into Ignite top laners. And his strat was literally just let them kill you at level 2, but get them low. Yeah, it was like hard trade on them as the wave pushes to you, have them kill you while the wave's pushing to you, and you'll just win the lane. You'll be up 2 levels.
Yep.
And that is one of those weird things where if the optimal play is dying, or, on the flip side, if you don't want to kill someone, that is weird.
I mean, obviously, it's better if you just killed in that situation, but usually you can't because they have Ignite. But yeah, it's just like fighting to the death.
A couple of things on this. They also made some home guard balances to balance this out a little bit. You still are going to be delayed and later there, but they also did balance it a little bit with your
home guard lasts 3 more seconds.
Exactly, your home guard coming out. So this is why I was so happy about this. This has been the topic that I keep randomly bringing up on a bunch of episodes of them making a lot of changes to the game that disincentivize going for kills and highly incentivize farming. The poster mentioning Meteos was front page on Reddit from the challenger top laner, and I actually think that momentum, like that social, had a influence on them taking a look at this, because is mathematically correct to die there because of the extra experience that you're going to get on the wave coming back, and you never want that to be the gameplay. If it gets to the extreme point where we're like, not only are going for kills disincentivized, but it's actually incorrect to go for the kill, then you really need to make adjustments. So I'm really happy about this one, especially because I actually am a big proponent of snowballing and early game leads, and so anything that does highlight that, I think, is a good change for the game. I hope that there is going to be more incentive, to get early kills, because I want to see people. You want to see PvP combat in these games. So I think it's just a more entertaining product. I loved that. I loved the Doran's Blade nerf that is going to take down on a very popular starting item for a lot of these AD carries. There was one thing this patch was set up as it was going to be like my dream patch. I was so happy that they had early game death timer things. They had some nerf step for AD carries. They also originally had in there a nerf for Faded Ashes and Leandries. However, they removed it. And Freak tweeted about it as well. They decided that they are going to remove the Faded Ashes and Leandries nerf, and they're going to focus on the champions instead, which to me made me very sad because the nerfs that were in there were not huge. They were not going to kill Faded Ashes or Leandries. It was 5 damage off of Faded Ashes, and it was 10 AP off of fully completed Leandries. I think those are fine. Those items are in very powerful spots, and I think that was like probably a correct tap down. And if you're opting to go after the champions, then you run into a problem of it's not just mages that use Leandries and abuse Leandries right now. Do you know what the first item for the top 3 win rate tanks in solo queue is? Tank junglers? It's Leandries. Leandries, Rush, Udyr, Amumu, and Nunu are the highest in Diamond Plus, and Amumu is even 54% win rate in Masters Plus. Like that's traditionally.
I have been seeing a lot of Amumu lately.
It's traditionally a really like low elo skewed champion, but like Conqueror Amumu with Leandries Rush into tank after that, and same thing for Udyr and Nunu. They do the Leandries into tank after that. Is super high win rate for solo queue, and then you have a lot of the mage jungles for pro play and stuff. As well as high rating. I was like, if you're opting not to address what I feel like is a root issue, I feel like these items are so strong right now, and it's a core issue, and they've decided to go after champions. I guess we'll track how it goes. And obviously, there are people on the team that wrote those nerfs to Faded Ashes and Leandries, and so they had them in there, and that is like they recognize that those are strong. So we'll track and see how they go about kind of tackling this issue.
My guess is that they want to keep more AP junglers in there, right? And they're worried that like that would push out AP junglers kind of as a whole, because obviously Pro for a long time had been very AD jungle heavy, and I think speaking with Freak and stuff for a long time, he was a big proponent of like AP bot laners, and he wants like all those different styles to be viable. So maybe that's the thought process, is that if you hit the like kind of the item that all these champions are dependent on, that you maybe kill them all. So maybe just like tapping down the ones that are really OP is kind of the direction. But for now, it's been the opposite this split, where it's like all about AP junglers.
Yeah, it is. I guess in my perspective, Leandries is like overpowered for sure, but also the alternatives are just not there, right? So I don't know. Hopefully it's not the case where, they nerf all the champions because Leandries is too good, and then eventually they get around to nerfing Leandries, and the champions that got nerfed because of it,
dead.
Yeah, they're super dead. That has happened before, but who knows what's going to happen? I trust Freak.
Yeah. With my life. There's no, I'm just kidding. There's definitely would not. There's, this is going to be hopefully a pretty good patch. There's been so much kind of like ADC dominance. Obviously, you mentioned the Doran's Blade nerf. There is going to be like a passive damage increase for Lucian, but a Q nerf, which is kind of, again, focused more towards mid lane. There's Corki nerfs. The Foss Bomb is cost more mana and is going to be a longer cooldown. So they are trying to kind of like target down some of these alongside the Azir buff, the Orianna buff. So like they're obviously trying to push some of that out. I guess the thing that starts to feel a little bit weird to me is I felt like AD carries needed to be nerfed in solo lanes after MSI. Like this has been around for so long, and now they've waited so long to do it, and they did it so slowly that at this point I'm almost like teams have already qualified for Worlds. Not all of them, but some teams have already qualified for Worlds, and this is what you tested them on the entire year. So then it starts feeling a little bit unfair to then like fully kill the strategy that teams have like made their whole year on. So I don't know. Now I feel like I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm sick of AD carries in every role, but at the same time I'm like, it almost feels too late. Like I feel like it would be weird if you killed this strategy now, right before Worlds qualification and all that.
I feel that, and I've kind of shared that sentiment each patch. I look at it waiting for these 80 carry solo lane nerfs because, like,
we've been waiting for months and months.
Yeah,
and months.
You nailed it. It's just, it does suck if you qualify for Worlds and then all of a sudden the meta is completely different, because we've seen that before. And I don't know, I'm kind of split on it, because I definitely agree that you should, get to play the stuff you've played to get to Worlds, right? It just makes sense. You don't want to see a team that's just totally exposed because they abuse something OP to get there. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to watch like Corki versus Tristana versus Lucian mid at Worlds, because it's just not that interesting. The champions are too safe and they have these scaling game plans, and I just think it'd be more fun if other stuff was better.
Yeah, it's always an interesting topic of how much change are you willing to accept, and what skills do you want to test? Do you want to test adaptability and, teams being flexible, or do you want to test teams that can just peak at one strategy and try and keep the meta / optimal gameplay very steady heading into Worlds? Generally, people, I feel like, are similar to you, where they're like, I feel kind of torn between both ways. And I also want it to be an entertaining product. So I don't want to, just watch the same thing over and over, but I also want to see them play at their best. Me also personally, I really like rewarding players that are very adaptable and can change based on patch notes and changes in meta, because I feel like that's what normal players go through. And I feel like that is something that people can relate to, is like, oh man, my main champion or my favorite thing just got nerfed, and so I have to adapt, and I have to change something about the way that I play. So I'm kind of torn. I am always.
I just think they took too long.
Yeah,
I think they dropped the ball.
I do probably agree with that. Although I'm still happy. I guess my perspective, I'm still happy that they're doing it now, even if it is later, because I do like, that excitement of change and
excitement of the Orion Azir buffs alongside the ADC nerfs, right? Like, it's like if we want to do a world's meta mix up, why not buff some interesting champs? Like, because or Azir is right below the like 380 carries that everyone plays already.
Faker's been an Azir salesman for like this whole split, basically. If you look, every time I look at a T1 game, Faker's playing Azir, and so there's like actually a pretty good chance we're going to end up in an Azir Corki meta for Worlds. And I don't know.
Azir's going to be 100% presence at Worlds.
Yeah. I feel like everyone groans when those champs are played, just because it's like, I don't know. To me, I always think that if a champion has this like really strong defensive mobility spell, like Valk or Azir's slide thing, that should be a pretty big cost to their lane, because it's such a huge asset. The fact that, other champs, say you want to play, I don't know, who's some, terrible mid champ you wouldn't want to play, like Lux mid or something, right? It's like you're always at risk of just getting ganked and killed, right? Because you have no mobility. But, you play these other ones like Tristana, Corki, whatever, and you don't even need to ward. And it's just not worth the jungler's time to even look mid. So it's like, not only are the ganks less effective on you, there's just going to be less ganks because they know they're not going to work. And so it's kind of like this hidden power that, especially in pro play, adds so much to a champion. So yeah, I always think it's really scary when those kind of champions are really strong, and it feels like it should be more of a cost to their power level when they have that kind of tool.
Especially Azir, because Azir can extend the length of the dash by queuing right as you're about to get to it. So you can actually go such a huge distance with that champ. Like, that champ is so powerful. And then post 6 it gets even more hard because the ulti's great for disengage, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the meta does need some sort of a change, but yeah, I guess I really agree with you, Kobe, that it's like, hey, I like testing adaptability, but I just feel like at this point we waited too long, and it just feels weird now to me. It's like, would it be a good test if they just buff every assassin, to like insanity, and then it's like, sorry TL, like, you practiced all year long and you're really good at doing all this style, but now it's like, Zed is the meta.
I mean, we got a case example of that back in season 5, which now is kind of ancient history, right? The Juggernaut patch,
yeah.
right before Worlds.
Oh, that was central.
It was like, what was it? Darius
Gangplank.
Gangplank. Yeah, I mean, he died in the lore and came back with a vengeance. And we saw what that happened. That was a learning experience. So that's probably the one extreme, but I like the adaptability. I think it's good.
Yeah, the ideal that they're going for is that these changes don't actually kill AD carries, mid, and then we get more variety by buffing up and having some Azirs and Orianas and Syndras be very competitive with the ADs. Is obviously goal. They're obviously always looking at the ideal world, where we can play everything. And you mentioned, what if Zed is meta? I think people would actually lose their minds and be like super excited, unless
they play against it.
Unless it was so meta that it's just like, oh, well, that's the best, and then everyone would be complaining like Juggernauts and like, what the hell? Last minute they buffed Zed to be the best champion in the game, and now everybody mid is just one-shotting me, and I don't get to play the game, and so there is always an avenue to complain of that. I'm very sure. My hopes for this are, I think, similar to the balance team, where I hope that we get just more variety with this, because I do hate seeing 680 carries in games, multiple games, where you're
that's
like
solo queue now too.
Every
game.
That is just feels very wrong at a core level, and so I am hoping that this goes to that end. But I also do feel like it's kind of a Band-Aid, and we'll see a much bigger adjustment when the season comes to an end. But these are the types of buffs, not only the fact that they're buffing Azir, but the type of buff they're giving to Azir is base armor and health regen. That is just tankiness to farm more.
Yep.
So those are the types of buffs that I'm usually not a proponent of, because I love PvP and killing people and being rewarded for killing people, and defensiveness is just allows you to farm better and scale for late game better. For Azir, we'll probably see some tank Azir style, grasp Azir going in and being the initiator, which is always cool. They're big plays, but because Azir has been a pro staple for so long, we've seen a lot of that.
Yep.
But still, you're like, oh my God, Faker, Azir, giant world-changing play. Like, that's not so bad.
No, I mean, it's not bad.
I'm a little shocked to not see any of the runes touched, because I was talking with like Double Sneaky Pobelter on the co-stream about all this, and one thing Pope brought up was that it is kind of the runes that have pushed AD carry over the edge, because I think a question so many people have is it's like, why now? Why is it now that AD carries are just getting played mid so much, when it's been an option forever? It's something that's showed up here and there, but like, what is really pushing them over the edge? And kind of the conclusion we came to is it's like the precision tree, right? Because you look at what you have, and it's like every single rune in the precision tree is so nuts for laning. Because compare it to domination, right? Like, say you're playing a mage with electrocute. Like, what are your wards? Like, are your runes? The top row, it's decent. Cheap shot, sudden impact, taste of blood. Like, that's pretty good. The next two rows, legit useless for laning. Like, actually don't do anything. Meanwhile, you have precision. You've got fleet. You've got absorb life, 2 sustain runes. You've got like alacrity. You've got cut down, just like almost perma 8% damage buff for when it matters, right? Like all your poke and whatnot. So I think that's actually probably the biggest reason why these AD carries mid are so strong. It's just the runes on them are nuts right now.
Yeah, it is interesting. More than anything, the patch changes I want to see is I want lane swaps to be dead, man. Lane swaps, if you talk about wanting an interesting meta at Worlds, there is nothing more boring than watching lane swaps. It is horrible. I really think lane swaps are so unfun to watch. There is depth to it as far as the strategy. There is skill in executing. Absolutely, I'm fully agreed with that.
Not fun to watch, though?
It's not fun to watch at all. It is so unfun to watch. And like, to me, one of the most interesting things in the game is seeing the individual laning skill. And that is so fun, especially at Worlds. When I think of a lot of my favorite moments, years at Worlds, it's like Rookie in the Shy going crazy. It's, Faker at his best crushing lane. It's, players like Nuguri when there was so much excitement around him in that like Klepto year and everything. And everyone's saying he's impossible lane against. Like these guys who, they just have this like aura about them where people are just terrified to even lane against them, right? Like it's so hard to get through lane against these players. And then lane swap just takes that completely away from you and makes it super boring. Even mid lane becomes way less interesting and less spicy because there's these extra people that are going to be roaming into your lane, so you shouldn't really be fighting because the top laners are going to walk in and try to kill you and stuff too. So it just kills all action. And yes, there is strategic depth. Yes, there is all that. Like I fully am aware of it. And if it's once every 20 games or something, sure, but it is just happening too much still.
How would you do it? I think that's what I would wonder.
I am fine to ham fist this thing, man. You can. There are so many ways you.
They've tried some stuff. Like there's a pretty big play imbalance. Like, what do you do? Do you tell pro players you're not allowed to lane swap?
No, I mean,
fine.
you if they actually want it dead and don't care about doing like a clunky strategy, because people always already said that like the turret plating protection and stuff like in top lane is already kind of clunky. You could literally make it so it's like 75%, it's 80%.
I think it is 75, isn't it?
It's 50. I thought
they buffed it to 75.
Oh, they buffed
really?
I thought they did earlier this. I mean, maybe
they did. I
thought they upped it.
That was one of the adjustments because they were trying to make it harder, so they did up it.
But I mean, there's like all kinds of ways you could do it if you really, really, really want it dead. Like you can do things like you get additional experience in bot lane for having two people there. You can do things like there's strategies that they could put in if they really want to ham fist it.
I really don't like the ham fisting ones though.
But I'm so sick of it, man. I just think it needs to be gone.
Yeah, I agree.
Hard.
I agree. It is not fun to watch. It is not the game that people play when they queue up League of Legends. And so it turns your spectator experience into like, well, I tuned in to watch basketball and I'm kind of watching like a derivative of basketball, but it's like badminton for the first 5 minutes or something, and you feel kind of awkward.
It's like
and then eventually it looks the same.
Like when I open up a game, and like when I'm watching like LCK or LPL or whatever, and I see a lane swap, the lane swap starts. I just want to queue up a game. I'm like, all right, like I'll come back in 10 or 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Like I'll look over and see if anything, because it's like once you've seen enough of them, and we've watched freaking hundreds of these things, there's really not that much that's exciting about it. Like I agree the ham-fisted strategies aren't great, and I'm fully willing to admit that I don't have a super elegant strategy to fix it. I'm sure that one exists. I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
But like, I just want it out of the game.
I don't know why, but it feels like the last 2 weeks as well, especially in LCS, we've seen so many lane swaps.
It's because TL, I've heard, is killing everyone with lane swaps.
That's what I thought too.
Because
it kind of, I feel like it came back again in like the C9 versus TL series, where I feel like Jat is to blame for this. He manifested it on the dive. He was saying, TL needs to lane swap against C9, and then they did, and now everyone's lane swapping against everyone. And when I was playing pro, lane swapping was a big deal, and as a player, you don't really feel how boring it is because you're thinking about
things to focus on in game.
Yeah, there's all that stuff, but for sure, watching it, no kills before 10 minutes in any meta is just not it. I want to see some bloodbaths. I want to see like at least a kill per minute in game. I feel like it's usually the benchmark for like an exciting game. So yeah, I totally agree. I don't really know what the solution is. Like you said, they could do a lot of ham-fisted stuff, but
I'm sure that an elegant solution exists. I honestly have not put a tremendous amount of time into thinking about it, but this has been a problem for a long time, and I feel like the balance team has said that they don't like it. And so I'm a little bit surprised that there hasn't been more movement on that. But that's my like, please kill this before Worlds. That's my Christmas wish list.
I feel really bad for top laners when you watch lane swaps, because it's like, dude, how do you even practice in solo queue for a lane swap? You can't. It's like, unless you queue up, you get up against another pro player, and you agree, hey, let's both AFK for the first 4 minutes. Because we've literally seen multiple games where top laners will have no gold or XP or CS before 4 minutes.
Yep.
And so you're just behind everyone else in the game. It's like, dude, what is going on? Like with your basketball analogy, it'd be like watching one of your star players play with like, I don't know, like their feet tied together or something. It's just like, dude, that's not what I'm here to see, right? Like that's nobody wants that, man. Like let's see
how good is
people play
LeBron
the game.
if we sucker punch him and then make him play blindfolded for the first 5 minutes?
Yeah,
Probably
exactly.
still pretty good.
Probably still extremely good, but we will just keep complaining about lane swaps if we get ourselves stuck here.
Yeah, we can.
I think we are all agreed it's not fun to watch, and even if technically you can get kills and have action, I was actually like, I wanted to go on the waiting room and like yell at Spawn when Spawn was like, well, we use lane swaps and we create action. I'm like, well, I don't want to watch.
That is cap.
I don't want to watch 3 to 4 people kill a top laner. Like that's not the kind of action that I want to watch.
0 CS and
I'm like, all right,
yeah.
you technically got a kill, but like we don't want to tune in to watch bullying here. We want to watch fair fights. I want every pro player to be General Sniper and just be like, I don't know. I'm gonna go lane against this guy, and I'm probably gonna be solo kill him. I want everyone to just go for solo kills and just be exciting in that fashion. But overall, I am very happy about this patch. The only thing I was nitpicking on was that they were so close. They had Faded Ashes and Landry's nerfs, and then they took them out. But definitely looking forward to it as far as playoffs goes.
Last thing I'm a little bit interested in is the Senna changes because I actually really like playing Senna, and they are taking off like lethality scaling on the Q as far as the healing, and they're increasing the AP scaling on basically all these different things. Well, really, I guess just the R and the Q. But this was quite a while ago now. But there was like it was not a popular build, but it was really super high win rate for a while. This was like, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, where people were doing like Moonstone and Redemption and just like full support like AP itemization with like plus healing and stuff and playing Airy. And it was actually really, really strong. Wasn't popular at all, and I kind of wonder if this is going to bring that back now because there's no more lethality scaling for healing and whatnot at all, and I wonder if this will make Senna more of a true support, and I think it could be actually reasonably strong if that ends up being the case.
Yeah, that's definitely their goal. Like they stated they wanted to, since so many solo queue players play it as a support, and it's only in pro that it's so extreme the other way. These adjustments are like trying to go that way. So
yeah, the cleaver changes are going to be interesting because it seems like Senna is absolutely going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of this.
She's going to be so good with that.
I mean, they even said in the patch notes directly, it's like her autos and Qs are going to apply 2 stacks of cleavers. So I feel like Senna having a defensive first item she can build is such a huge asset to her because like anyone who plays Senna knows you are like the squishiest champ on the map. Like she gets just run over by a light breeze, dude. Like, because you're perma underleveled because you're a support. You're like not farming anything. You have to be getting duo XP to get souls or whatnot. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe there's gonna be like some cleaver into like more supportive hybrid items. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, I think it'd be cool if she wasn't like this just giga scaling, 200 stack, 900 range, like carry thing she's been. Yeah, I mean, more, like the W root change too is pretty big. Anytime you add duration onto CC, it's really strong. So yeah, I mean, maybe it'll be cool.
Yeah, those are like that was one of her support oriented attempted buffs. The CC increases are always really big though. Another big topic from this patch is the effect on jungle. It was going to be AP nerfs with the buffs to Vi and Skarner and Wukong, but the AP part dropped off. But for sure, Vi already getting played a whole bunch in LCK, so everyone, that's the green flag there, to play it, and it's going to get buffed on top of that. So I think Vi is for sure, we're going to see some more Vi. And I know some of you are skeptical about Skarner, but Skarner is actually good again, and
no way.
And I will bet you. We can do another bet right now. I guarantee there's going to be Skarner play.
Top or what?
Do I have to specify for my bet? Because I will.
I mean, I'm not I'm already in a current bet. I'm not another
Okay.
real bet.
I am so sure that is going to get play in jungle.
But like,
Really? I feel like he's
how much
so
are
bad
we talking
jungle.
though, right? Like, are you talking like Skarner will get played a game in playoffs, or Skarner is going?
I know that it is. I'm not. I can't give away too much, but Skarner, like it's.
We
gonna
know
get
his
played.
connections.
It's gonna get played.
He's already leaked it.
I am pretty sure of it. I mean, so you can already look at it getting banned against Kanavi. It was banned against Kanavi, and that was pre-buffs. So obviously, a lot of junglers have a high respect for Kanavi. He apparently, people think, got it from Griffin, and so people were already looking at it because of that. And now with the buffs, I think that it just buffs the build that was my favorite build and that I kind of copied from Griffin, which was the Heartsteel into Sterix gauge, because it is Omega health for his health scaling, as well as then you get a giant Sterix synergy with all the Heartsteel stacks.
You know, I just find that it takes too long though.
Not when I played it during OP Skarner.
Okay, yeah,
It's always just like, holy moly, I'm just tearing down everything, and I had zero problems. I have personally not tested it again since the Skarner multiple nerfs and like changing his E so it doesn't do backwards grabbing. But I am going to when these buffs come out, which should be today, like when we get home after the workday today.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Just in this meta, though, in a Leandry's meta, like, are you really trying to go Heartsteel into Sterix when a brand's just going to one-shot you either way? Or a Lilia E will just hit you for like 4,000 damage or something? Okay, I mean, we'll see.
I mean, everything he has scales up health, so you're gonna go HP items regardless, right? Or do you just mean play starter in general?
Well, I mean, like, obviously you're going to build health, but, like, just not building any resists is the bigger issue, right?
For those two specific rush items, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, with Leandry's being so good, with even Bork is pretty strong right now, it makes just, like, straight health stacking kind of risky because any of those tank shredding items, which, like, you know, are pretty hot right now, just, like, it's like you don't have any defense.
Kanavi did go Heartsteel when he played it on 14-15.
It's a good point because they also nerfed boots, and the boots were the resistances that I relied on before when I did this build. It was, you know, you just build whichever boot counters the most threatening person on the enemy team with your Heartsteel and your Sterix and use that as your kind of resistance. But with those getting nerfed a bit, increase on price. I guess Steel Caps has a higher
cooldown boots, bro.
Auto attack reduction. Yeah, no, the cooldown boots are amazing for him too. It's such a pull because cooldown boots are insane for Skarner. You know what? Resistances are overrated. I still like the Griffin build.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I'd be happy to see some more kind of playmakers back in there, especially Vi. Obviously, you know, he's getting some play or she's getting some play. But in LCS, we've been seeing very little of it. So this I think will help to shift the needle a bit, and I think it'll be fun. As far as that could also be something potentially that makes it harder to play ADs as well, right? You know, more threat, like more dive, can help be something that kind of pushes the needle on them too.
Yeah, but I can counter one of your 780 carries that you have on your team.
Yep.
and then the other one's auto attacker, and she's dead before she lands from her ult.
That's why you bring the backup 80 carries. You know? Yeah. So when your 180 carry dies, you have the backup 80 carries. Yeah. Okay.
Dude, that's actually the best way to play against stuff
they
like
killed our
Vi.
mid lane 80 carry. Good thing we have Kindred and Varus top and Zeri bot and a Senna support.
Dude, that's the thing though. Like if you play against Vi or Jarvan or something, the gut reaction people have is to be like so scared of it. They're like, I don't want to be the one to get killed. Yeah. But no, you need everyone to just be really brave. Be like, we're all gonna play aggressive.
Only one shot one of us.
Yeah, like they can't get us all, and then you just kill them, and it's fine. You still win, you know.
Yeah. That's actually my biggest trigger is when the other team has dive and they dive on me and my team's running away. Like when they're diving, I'm like, yeah, just hit them. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Don't let me die in vain. I'm dying for nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, It's time now to talk about the Kia Rookie of the Year. This has been a topic we've been touching in on throughout the year. Obviously, it is no longer a split-long award. It is a year-long award. And I think it is fair to say there are three major frontrunners here now as Summer Split has wrapped up. Sniper, Massu, and Thanatos. Those are the three guys that I think everyone is talking about. Those are the three guys that I think are going to get the vast majority, if not all, of the votes.
Yes, they are. And we can go through the stories for each of them and the pitches for each of them. I think that currently for myself, and probably for a decent amount of other people, Massu is at the top. Massu is propelled by having good international performances, and that is one of the most impressive things for rookies when, you're doing well here, but you're on a team with veterans and you're getting some good coaching and stuff, and then you go to international performances and you perform well under pressure on the international stage. That just kind of fully sends it for me. I was really blown away with how good Massu really has been, in those situations. And so to me, it's kind of hard to argue with that. Whereas Sniper and Thanatos, I feel like, are the other two main followers in the race for Rookie of the Year. And with them not having that chance to even prove themselves on that stage this year maybe if we did the award post Worlds or something and we saw them at Worlds and they totally smurfed, then it would be a different story. But I feel like it is hard for them to overcome that unless Massu has a complete downfall in playoffs.
I mean, for me, even more than just the international stuff or whatever from Massu, it's just been the incredible improvement he's had from spring to summer. In spring, I felt like he was one of those ADs that was just kind of there. They're doing their job, but they're not really necessarily creating advantages for themselves. He's not really having any of those big moments where he's able to take over a game. He's just doing a pretty steady job. I feel like he has stepped up so much, and talking to so many pros, they've really been giving a tremendous amount of credit to Massu and Busio, not as this guy's a pretty good rookie, as no, this is one of the best bot lanes in the league now and one of the hardest 2v2s to lane against in the league. He is also really stepping up in these big moments now, I feel like, and being able to take over team fights. He's becoming a super reliable carry, and he's at the point now where I feel like this is the guy on FlyQuest, right? This is the guy you are really kind of counting on to carry a lot of the games. I think he has been, shifting more and more towards this. In spring, it was always talking about, okay, FlyQuest top side. It's Jensen, it's Inspired, it's Whippo. It's these guys are the ones that have to get it across the line, and the bot lane just kind of has to not feed or whatever. I feel like now I want to see Inspired play for Massu, way more than I do for Whippo or even for Quad, who's also having a good split. I just think he has improved by leaps and bounds, and it has been pretty incredible to see. So for me, he is the runaway favorite.
I've been really, really impressed with Massu as well. Specifically his Callista games, which we've seen quite a bit this split, have just really blown my mind because that's not an easy champion to play. It's one thing for new players to come in and, play something safe, play a scaler, and just do your job, fit into the team, don't take risks, but Massu's not really doing that. He is playing Callista and he is just dominating. We've seen games where they're just diving the enemy bot lane 2v2, no jungler around, just creating these huge advantages out of nothing, which to me always stands out as, it's that is a really good player because it's really easy to be the guy who gets all the resources, who's completely played around, who's babied, who's they don't have a hard, the road in front of them is paved or whatnot. That's not hard, but the people who's actually laying the foundation for their team, the ones who's just creating advantages, soaking pressure, and still coming out ahead, that is a really good player. And I think Massu's totally shown he can do that, especially as a rookie. Just super impressive.
And then if we talk about Sniper is kind of a little bit reversed on the timeline where it was spring. It was all about Sniper.
If it was Rookie of the Split, he won.
Yeah, and Sniper was getting a solo kill. He was solo kill leader in spring. Everybody was a Sniper fan. He was entertaining. He was styling on people that were talking trash on him. You know, we had all of these veteran top laners talking about, oh, he's not that good. Oh, he's overrated. And then he would solo kill them in game. Like that's the fantasy that everyone wants to live when they're playing League of Legends, is solo kill the people trash talking you. And Sniper was doing that on stage. And so I'm still such a big Sniper fan. It's just that 100 Thieves in summer struggled a lot more and have had a lot rougher over time. Whereas Massu has had the improvement curve. And so it kind of pushes him a bit up in the votes. But Sniper, I still definitely see him getting some votes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sniper deserves a lot of credit because even though 100 Thieves recently has kind of had their struggles, I think that, they're kind of a victim of this meta we found ourselves in. I think that I mentioned it before on the show, but just their strengths as a team are not in doing these kind of like lane swap type deals because Sniper, he's someone who's come up through solo queue. He is a rookie, and nothing's going to train you for, hey, bro, play Cassante, blind pick, get counter picked, and go 4 levels down on everyone in the game and succeed. That's, Impact can do it. Impact's also been playing forever. He's, built diff. Not everyone's him. So it is a really, really hard skill to learn, especially if your team is struggling. So I think that, it's been a tough split for Sniper. I think he's still he's had his moments. He's definitely in the running for one of the best rookies. But it has been a lot harder in summer for them. So obviously, still a great player. I think there's a lot to look forward to watching Sniper. Just unfortunately, lane swaps ruin it for everyone.
I feel like the lane swap thing definitely hurt him, but I also just feel like his team, we've talked about this before, in general was hurt by the meta, right? River, you want him playing Jarvan and Vi and these types of champs. He's really good at the AP champs too, but I just think that those champs aren't the ones that could drive this team to victory in the same way that he was able to in spring on more playmakers. And the same thing was true with Quid as well, right? Quid did not turn in a split that was anywhere close to what he did in spring where he won MVP. I don't think it's a shocker to say there's no way he's going to be even an all-pro, I don't think. So, it was just a very different split. But yeah, had it been Rookie of the Split, Sniper won 100% in spring. I just think that his summer makes it a lot harder when Massu had this kind of meteoric rise. And then the other candidate that people are talking about is Thanatos, who obviously only has the summer. So I think when you're coming in and you don't have that full year of performance to look towards, he really had to absolutely dominate to be able to kind of steal this away from a Sniper or a Massu, because it is a year-long award. And I think he did have a really, really strong split. He's in my All-Pro voting. I think, he's played a really strong split. But I do think it's difficult with the level that Massu has risen to, where Massu is also, I think, easily going to be an All-Pro AD carry and has that kind of year-long, body of work. I think Thanatos would have had to go, far kind of above and beyond and be like the runaway best performer of the rookies in summer to really be able to justify him taking it away from these other guys who kind of put in good performances the entire year long.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to Thanatos, because he's my boy on Cloud9. He's been really good as well. He absolutely deserves credit. And one thing that stuck out to me for Thanatos is his laning phase is actually so cracked. One of the most common matchups we see in pro all the time. These top laners probably done it 1,000 times. Renekton versus Cassante, right? And there have been so many games where from the Renekton side, he's up like 2,000 gold in laning phase, like 30, 40 CS lead, taking several plates. Like his laning phase is just so good. And to me, that's something that, it's hard to teach a player to just dominate lane, right? That's something that you just learn by playing and practicing a lot and just being really good, how to trade in all these situations, all these different lane states. And He's consistently coming out ahead. Very, very good laning stats. I think that Thanatos is still kind of like finding his footing on the team. We do see quite a few situations where he gets too aggressive. Almost feels like he gets bored in a way in games where like when nothing's happening, he just sends it so hard, and it like sometimes it kind of trolls the game. But you know, he definitely has that mentality where it's like he wants to be the guy who decides the game one way or another. Like he wants to be the main character, the protagonist, which, you know, I think as a rookie, it's not a bad mindset to have. You know, it's like you want to like be heard, be seen, make your presence felt, and he's doing a really good job. Especially, I think his early game super strong. Just, you know, part of being a pro player is being on that team, working with your teammates. Sometimes you got to take the backseat role, and you know he's played some Ornn and whatnot. I think
especially as a top laner.
Oh yeah, I mean top lane. You know, like hats off. Everyone needs to like, you know, buy drinks for their top laner because they're the ones who's like, I don't know. They just I don't know. They're the punching bag of the team.
Yeah.
You know, they're top laners just endure the most. But you know, he's working on it. He's learning. I think it's definitely something that takes a lot of experience, like we were saying with Sniper. Not something you're ever going to learn in solo queue. So I think Thanatos, you know, he's been really good. I think C9 fans are happy with his development, and yeah, someone to look forward to.
Yeah, I picture two separate plays which really embody the two main points you're talking about. His dominating lane phase, and especially the Renekton. Do you remember the Renekton game? He pushed up after he was winning his lane into the enemy jungle, solo killed enemy jungle, and the game is just like he's won the whole game. Because they get top tower plates, he kills enemy jungle, gets his flash.
He took his blue as well.
Yeah, took his flash and his blue, and I'm like, wow, dream top laner. Like, if I'm the jungle on his team, I'm like, you literally just won the whole game for me because, like, I didn't have to spend any time going over there. You completely put their jungler behind, took away the flash, and you're winning the top lane, have, set us up for repeat invades. But then the slight drawback that you're talking about, where there's some of these plays, especially evident in their recent series, where he's trying to flank and the rest of the team, it looks like they've made the call to not go in and pull off the play, but then he's already kind of committed or already like forward in positioning. And so some of these coordinated plays where it's either a teleport in or a flank from a different side, where it does look like the timing with the rest of the team and a little bit of the coordination with the rest of the team on those plays is a bit off, is the drawback right now. But I feel like that is definitely something that will get fixed, and they can definitely build on. And as far as a rookie, it's like he's got the foundation for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a play that, you know, is kind of burned into my brain. I want to say it was against Team Liquid. I'm not 100% sure, where it was like exemplifying the kind of like he's trying to go for make something happen, you know. It was this play where I want to say they had like invaded enemy blue, and they were playing red side, so they invaded enemy blue, taking that away, and the team was all kind of backing out. And then I want to say it was like an Ezreal, but it was an AD with cleanse, and he just like he's armor connected, and he like flashes E's, stuns them, and they just cleanse and shift away, and then like everyone is trying to bail him out, but they all file in and die.
I want to say I was against Immortals.
Was it against Immortals? Okay.
I could be wrong.
No, I mean,
I know the situation you're talking about. I know the
exact play. I can't remember the team it was, but that was one of those ones where it's like, yeah, that's a mistake that you expect a rookie to make, but he has all the strengths that you hope your rookies would have, right? So, I mean, this guy's going to be ridiculously good. I think he already is really good. Like I said, he's easily an all-pro, and I think we have a really exciting crop of rookies this year, so it's been a pretty good one. We can move on now and talk about the rest of all-pro, as we have to submit our all-pro votes and everything by tonight. It is the deadline is midnight tonight. This was a weird year of all pro for me. I always think about the players that are on like lower ranked teams and stuff that really are deserving of all pro, and I have never once, this is my, I guess, 18th split of LCS that I've done voting for now. Because the end of my like 9th season of LCS, and I've never once before this had only top 3 teams for All Pro. I think this is the year it's probably going to be only top 3 teams for All Pro. I've been thinking about it the last couple of days. I was trying to think about like what are the players you could really make an argument for. The closest I got was maybe like a Buki, who I think really improved the team, but I still didn't feel that I could justify putting him above one of the junglers for the top 3 teams. And it feels weird to do those kind of voting because those are the kind of votes that everyone always kind of sees and you laugh. Where you're like, ha, yeah, like 5 T1 or 5 Gen G, first team All Pro. It feels like that's the kind of split we have in LCS. And it's so hard to argue against because the top 3 teams feel miles above everyone else. And it's just so hard to kind of make those arguments.
Yeah, it is really tough because, like you said, a lot of these times, like to be a good team, players like, they have to work with their team and whatnot. And so I think when you were talking about players on lower tier teams, like Boogie is a standout player. It's also hard though because like he didn't play very many games, right? Like he was in for a little bit and like a lot. Like I think most of his games he was on Brand, who is a really strong champion right now, a champion he's good at, and just has like a ton of playmaking potential. So. When you don't see him in like that many different situations, it can be hard to judge. I think Ole is also another one of those players that, like, to me, I think he's a very strong support. I think Immortals was just, some didn't come together for them, the split. But like you said, it is hard to rate him higher, right? It's like, who's not making it in? Is it Core? Is it Busio? Is it Vulcan? I don't know. Like, it's just because you stand out on the lower tier team doesn't necessarily mean you're better than someone on a stronger team.
And especially because we're not voting off of skill, we're voting off of performance based on the games you played on stage this split, right? So it's like you had to have turned in that bad performance, which is like the thing for Boogie was like, wow, this guy made a team that looked like they were the worst team I've ever seen all time in LCS. Like they were, it was crazy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
I mean, you're not even wrong.
Blown out of the water. Their game time was like 4 minutes faster than everyone else because they were losing so fast with no resistance put up whatsoever. And then they became an actual competitive team that I'm like, if Boogie was there from the start, they might have made playoffs, right? Like it was a huge shift, and so that was what impressed me. But then when you're thinking about it, it's like, okay, well, you can't kick out or Blabber or Inspire. Like all these guys played really, really well for their team. So it's just a weird one where I'm like, yeah, there's gonna be discussions about ordering, but I almost can't imagine anyone outside of the top 3 teams getting All Pro.
You can shake them up a little bit and like mix the top 3 teams, but that's about as much like leeway and freedom as you have this year. You can call it weird. I would say it's like easy All Pro votes this year. I did mine. I saw the email and I instantly went in. Usually I like go through and like think it out a little, as I'm just getting my initial thoughts down. Then I check some stats, think about some games that I can recall. But this one, because it was so easy, I just actually filled them all out, opened up the email. I was like, okay, well, I guess top's done. That was pretty easy. I guess I'll keep going. Oh, well, I guess I'm done with jungle now. That was also really easy. And I just finished my whole All Pro vote almost instantly after opening it. I was like, wow, I feel empty, a little empty inside. I think that's the feeling here where we didn't, even though we had really cool stories, like you guys were talking a lot about Boogie, I also felt similarly about this like super sub narrative with Tomo coming in and being this huge changing force for 100 Thieves and them just constantly, not just Tomo's play, but the rest of the team then looks a whole bunch better. And you're like, wow. When you think about some of the descriptions of MVP and arguments when people are like, well, MVP isn't necessarily the single best player in the league, but it's like who means the most to their team, then you could try and like craft some weird argument where you're like, well, it meant so much to this team to have this player or that player.
And Tomo won Player of the Week, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he had a really, really good week.
And so it's there are some really cool stories for some of the other players and teams, but it does feel a bit disingenuous if you actually omitted the players off these top 3 teams because they have been so clearly the top 3 teams.
I'm curious. So you were thinking everything was super super easy. I'm curious what your take is on MVP then, because I think MVP is going to be an interesting discussion. I can't see a world in which it is not someone from TL.
I put Impact. I thought that one was
super easy. I feel like Impact is probably going to be the MVP. He would be my first vote for sure. But then this is maybe it's just like a philosophical thing, but I feel weird putting like a bunch of people from one team in like MVP first, second, third. Like it feels weird to do that. But the 2 people that pop in my mind for MVP immediately was Impact 1 and Core 2. Were 2 people I thought really made a massive difference this split. I think this is one of the most kind of impactful splits Impact has ever had. Like he's never won MVP in LCS as far as I know, and he almost never even wins first team All Pro. He's usually second or third if he makes it. So it is kind of crazy to see how good he has been this split. Core as well, I think, has been incredible. And every pro I talk to, and every episode when people are talking about supports on pros, people are just talking about Core, how he's always there when you don't want him to be, that he is so annoying to deal with. And it's 2 of the people that I think really make Team Liquid so good at lane swapping. It's Impact because he's able to play out the lane swaps perfectly, give up the minimum, be able to play from these situations where he's down a bunch of levels, down a bunch of gold. And Core is just moving around the map and frustrating people at every single turn, right? It's like, you talk to people and they're like, okay, well, if there's one moment that Core being there would screw you, he's there 100%, right? And it's just like, it's like he's in people's heads to the point where they don't feel like they can push out a wave that they should be able to push out for sure, because Core is certainly going to be there and screw me over or whatever. And so I think that is really, really incredible. But then beyond that, I was like, well, who else is there? Like, who's my third vote? I thought that was really, really hard to think of. Someone who could kind of be up there with those TL guys. And that's where I was really struggling. I'm like, do I actually think someone from C9 or FlyQuest could win? Not really. I feel like TL is just running away with it. So I felt like that was kind of hard thinking through my 1, 2, 3.
It is hard. I mean, you could definitely make an argument for really anyone on TL. Like, Yon's been really impressive this whole year. APA's been impressive. Umpty as well. Yeah, that's super tough. I don't even know who I would say outside of, like you were saying, Impact and Core. I think it's been so cool seeing Core like pop off again this year, because he's had one of those careers where, like, maybe it's just because like I've played for a long time, but like I love seeing the stories of people who, like, Core is a world champion. He's literally like gone as high as you can go, and then he's had success in TL, and then he's been through slumps where people have literally been calling for him to retire. He's had rough games where people are saying he looks like one of the worst sports in the league, and now he's back to on top again. So like I really like seeing that. I think it's super cool how you can have ups and downs in your career, and I think he's just a super smart guy. He cares a lot about the game. You can tell he was like one of the big people pushing for Champions Queue. And
one of the people who actually played Champions Queue.
One of the people who played it. And it's just cool seeing him do so well again.
Yeah, we talked a lot about teams that were kind of screwed over by metas, but Core was, I feel like, extremely highlighted by this meta. He has always been at his best playing engage champs, and we have just had bot lane engagers for a long, long time now in this meta, and his snap engages, his control of vision in order to get to places where you, like you're saying, don't want him to be, or it's a place that's going to screw you over. And some of the times, like we saw in some of the replays, I like that you called it out last week where Jat did the replay of the Impact putting the control word back there, and then you see the rest of the team kind of build on that. And, Core all of a sudden comes jumping over on his metal horse over your red buff into your face. And you're like, oh, no, I am instantly dead.
Actually, shout out to, since we're on this discussion, their Game Against Energy, where he hit the 5-man rel engage. It was so...
Oh, that was so crazy.
It was so dirty. Oh, my God. It was just like the most textbook team wipe. And then another part of that, too, is when you watch that, I know a lot of people's reaction is just like, energy is so bad. Like, how are you just grouping up for that? But at the same time, it's the small things that make a team like TL so good. the way that Impact played it, he is kind of the one who sold that play because, Energy had their group timer, right? Where that's something you'll do in League. Like you give up your side lane farm, you group up, you clear vision, and then the other team has option, okay, do we want to fight them when they walk in our vision, or do we just give it up and get a farm lead? And so Impact backed up, let Energy think that, they weren't contesting this. Meanwhile, Core is chilling in the line brush, and then Energy, not expecting to engage, not positioned correctly for it, and just get completely destroyed. Like, that was so sick.
And APA was bot. So that was, I think, what made them even think more that they could move in and actually clear out this vision was because APA was bot showing on minions. They're like, okay, well, we have 5 here. We move in. It's a 5v4. Like, this is our power play, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, the way that they executed on that fight was so sick. Like, Core finds that snap engage, but also there was the 4-man Lily Asleep immediately after with the bowling ball hitting everyone. There was the Ezreal ult over the top of everyone. Was it an Ornn game for Impact or something? It was like every ult imaginable hit everyone, and
yeah.
It's all instantaneous. And as Core is in the air, APA is TPing in as well. Like, everything was just like boom, 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 boom. And then they're all instantly dead, and you're just like, okay, I apologize. That turns out that was your position. Like, turns out that was your river. That was crazy. That was a really, really sick team fight. I wanted to ask you guys, so if you had to make an MVP argument or a candidate from C9 and FlyQuest, who would it be then? Or did you vote for anyone?
I put in one. I put in Blabber. I had Impact, Blabber, and Jan as my candidates. I really think that Blabber has done so much that doesn't really get highlighted as much as some of like, it doesn't show up at like crazy laning stats for Thanatos, or some of JoJo's plays that I have been super impressed with in their recent matches where he's baiting people with his flash up and he's playing these AD carries kind of on the edge. It grabs a lot of eyeballs and it's very like spectacular stuff. But I just always feel like Blabber does so much for this team, and with everyone focusing on how Cloud9, their best attribute was dominating the early game, I feel like it is incredibly, in large part, due to Blabber's efforts. And so I threw him in there. I did kind of had the thing, too, where I was thinking of so many TL members. And I also felt like I need to splash. I'm not doing 2 TL members right in a row. I'm not doing Impact.
Triple TL for MVP.
I'm not doing Impact, Jan, and Core JJ. And I have a legitimate argument for Blabber, so I have them in there. But I instantly submitted my first for Impact because I feel strongest about that one, and that was kind of my list of my reasoning.
Do you think there's any argument for Inspired or something then? Because it's interesting because it's like, I feel like some people, make the argument for Inspired in that like, oh, he's so good in team fights. Like, he gets so much done for the team in team fights. But it's also the style that he plays is kind of uniquely enabled by a team that has strong lanes because he really prioritizes his own farm. We showed these stats on jungle procs. He's like lowest or very close to lowest. Ninth out of 8 junglers. He's not really involved in his lanes. He power farms, he prioritizes objectives, and then he does do really well in team fights.
That was specifically for mid lane.
But even his other lanes were very low.
Yeah, the other ones were very low also. His jungle procs in general was low because he does do the power farming.
Yeah.
But I specifically highlighted the mid lane because Blabber was number 1 in mid jungle proximity, spending so much time around JoJo, and so it's like a very stark difference between the two, just as far as mid lane. But I had actually been crafting for FlyQuest a quad, reasoning, because I feel like Quad has been their best player
for MVP.
I feel like he has been their best player in their recent games. Quad is doing so much work without a lot of extra resources and extra pressure. I've just been so impressed with.
But can you be MVP if you're not best?
No, that's why I didn't vote for him.
Oh, okay.
I just have been so impressed with how much he has done, and I feel like that team has kind of transitioned from the Whippo inspired team into the Quad and Massu team.
Yeah, I think for me, FlyQuest is kind of still a step below Cloud9 or Liquid, because one thing that I'm trying to do when I look at these is because we're doing best of threes and it's just single round robin. Like, if you look at just match score, I think it doesn't paint the full picture. Whereas if you look at the actual games you've won and lost, like FlyQuest has a lot more losses than either C9 or TL does. And so also like when you look at what they've played, FlyQuest games just feel like the most formulaic, I guess, where Quad has been on 80 carry mid like actually every single game. He's overwhelmingly played Corki Tristana. He's played some Lucian, but like it hasn't gone very well. And so I don't know, like they seem like they're just kind of like following the rules of the meta right now. They're doing that, and I think Massu stands out to me as kind of like their overperforming player. Mm-hmm. But the rest of them, it kind of just feels like they're doing their job, right? It's like, to me, that it doesn't really feel like MVP status from anyone on FlyQuest. They just kind of like play the meta. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But they definitely don't seem as good.
And to your point about record, TL 14-3 in games, Cloud9 13-3, and FlyQuest are 11-7. So it is a pretty stark difference as far as the overall record. We are going to take a quick break, though, and then after the break, we are going to be previewing the 2 playoff matchups that are going to be coming this week. That is Dignitas versus 100 and FlyQuest versus Energy.
Hello?
Bro, why are you parking?
Seriously? What is that?
Remote smart parking assist. You could have parked anywhere.
They could have parked there. They could have parked there. They could have parked there.
Welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia. Let's talk Dignitas versus 100. This is going to be the round 1 first matchup coming this Saturday, and the winner of that would be playing TL.
I'm excited for this one because Sniper was on pros and he was very confident. It looked, you could, if you're watching his body language and his face, well, he's like smirking and like almost fidgeting while he's like, yeah, we match up really well versus Dignitas, and I match up really well versus Licorice. And it's like that, like, he is such a nice kid, and he is like being very kind about it. But like maybe after like the show match where his Riven versus Poppy stuff, 1v1 versus Licorice was pretty impressive, and you can tell that he is extremely confident. And that is the 100 Thieves that is most exciting for me to watch. So I am actually really looking forward to this one, even though Dignitas, it does feel like they have been kind of limping into playoffs. I'm actually now kind of rooting for them to have a comeback. I'm like, come on, old guys, you can do it.
Yeah, please do
it.
They're the higher seed, though, and they did 2-0 100 Thieves when they played them. But to be fair, it was week 2, and that was a long time ago. And I think, like you were talking about Quad being really good, Quad was not so hot, I think, in the first week or 2. I think
Quid?
Excuse me. Yeah, brain fart.
The classic.
Yeah. I think, Quid, like the team has, I think, developed, since then.
This was a hard one for me to predict because I don't know. I feel like it's just going to be one of those series that's just like, does Dig get away with lane swapping? Because they're kind of like the team of veterans. Most of these players played when lane swapping was a thing a million years ago, whereas 100 Thieves, they didn't. They're a lot more newer players. Yeah, exactly. So to me, it's going to be that kind of series. And I don't know. It's hard for me to really pick who I think will win or even who I want to win because both teams I feel like they're really easy to root for. 100 Thieves is like Sniper and River and whatnot, and they brought in Tomo, who's doing really well. I think if I had to predict, I would probably go with Dig just because I think that lane swapping is a thing, and I think 100 Thieves have struggled really hard with it. And especially with jungle meta too. Like I think with Lilia being a premier pick, it's one of Spica's best champs. So I I think I would vote for Dig if I was a betting man.
As soon as you said lane swaps, my stomach started hurting. I was just like, oh, he's right.
It's a tummy ache.
Oh man, I'm so excited for this match because I want to see, the sniper versus licorice. I want to see the confident 100 Thieves matching up against them
with Tomo and looking like
superstar Tomo came in and saved the team, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so excited. And then you're like, wow. You know what? Lane swaps actually are the perfect crutch.
What about the Vi buffs, though? We could get that River Vi in there,
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know if those are that big. It's like 5 to 10 damage.
Yeah, and it's not that
like, I don't know.
I've just been wanting them to
Vi.
play those champions regardless, because I feel like they just looked so much better when they were playing those stuff.
But then if we look at how Thanatos won their most impressive games, the games that they won versus TL and Cloud9, it is with these like Ivern Braum scaling teamfight comps, and you're like, wow, if they're just going to play scaling stuff that's powerful later because they're confident that they are veterans that know how to play out mid and late game, then the best way to get to mid and late game and really good team fighting comps is for lane swapping early, and that just makes me kind of sad.
I feel like a win with that kind of team comp deserves an asterisk next to it, because it's like you sold out if you're playing that, dude. It's kind of like what we were.
What happened to you?
No, this is like what we were saying about Liquid and Spring, dude. It's like, yes, you won the game, but like, did you really like win the game? Like, were you actually playing the game? Like, you just picked all the point and click, stat check, ball comp stuff. Like, yeah, you won, good job, but like, let's see you play.
But are you proud of yourself?
You feel good about that one, man. You feel good playing Ivern.
It's interesting because the series it was a 2-0 for Dig, but this is also, I was looking at the matchups as far as the champions and everything, and it reminded me, this is the game, if you guys recall, where 100 Thieves, it was I think in the second game of the series where or maybe it was even the first one, where Superhead and Sniper was really, really strong on Camille, and then he was trying to kill the inhibitor tower in the face of Licorice, who was playing Cassante, and Licorice killed him, then TP'd in, and they killed them all at Baron and took Baron. It was like a monster throw. Everything kind of wheels fell off type of moment where 100 Thieves have been doing really, really well. They were playing, this Ione, Karthus, Camille side lane thing with Senna on bot. And it was this cool draft that was working really well until it wasn't. And then it all just kind of fell apart in that one moment. But I mean, 100 Thieves has been looking, I think, definitely rejuvenated with Tomo. So I think there is that kind of level of excitement. And on the other side, I don't know what your guys' take is on this, but Sven tweeting out after their series loss this last weekend, he's like something along the lines of, that was pretty pathetic. No, shouldn't we just send FlyQuest TL and C9 to Worlds and cancel playoffs? And it's like at a certain point. We talk a lot about, they're all veterans. They have so much experience with this. They're going to be able to handle it, no problem. But also, veterans have egos, right? Like, you have an ego associated with your accomplishments, and you perceive yourself at being a certain place in the league. And so there was a pros episode I did with Sven. This was quite a while ago now. I don't know, week 3 or something, I'm guesstimating. And they were kind of joking about it, it was him and Huhi, and he was like, oh yeah, like a year ago we were in finals and now we're in LCS lows, ha ha ha, right? And kind of joking about it and talking about, oh yeah, TL, well that's a scheduled loss, but we've got Immortals and Shopify, those are scheduled wins. Then they got 2-0'd by Shopify.
Oops.
They were losing to Immortals. Honestly, they should have lost to Immortals, if not for a monster thrower Tactical gets hooked, at the inhibitor tower with, if I recall, 2 inhibitors already down. Like, the game was basically...
Monster throw by Tactical? No.
The game was basically done.
Oh my God.
The comms were so brutal, too. The comms, where they showed the player comms, and speakers just over and over is just like... And Tactical finds a way, and like it was just like, you know
what the worst, painful part to me was that he was just walking by the minions. He didn't even auto the tower.
Yeah.
Usually you're like, oh, it's right when the AD carry goes to auto the tower that they're about to get the inhibitor tower down. He was just like strafing there, not quite
this keeps happening,
in range, and I saw the hook coming, and I was like, no.
Yeah. It's sad. It's sad. But like, anyway, the point being, Dignitas have taken some lumps, and it's a pretty big hit, I think, to the ego at a certain point where it's like you have all these guys like Spica was an MVP, Licorice was was first team All Pro last time he was in the league. Jensen has been like top All Pro and won all these tournaments and gone to Worlds a million times and never missed playoffs. Sven, I think, was the first guy to win in EUNNA and has been at the top for so long. Recently won, with Cloud9, and now they kind of suck. Like they're just not that good, right? And so it's interesting because at least from the outside, I wonder, at what point is it hard to kind of like laugh off the losses, and does it become a little bit tough to swallow because it's like all these guys who I think really saw themselves as a team that was going to be a top team and individuals who were going to be top players, it has not panned out, right? Like this is the reality.
I know at what point it was hard is when they lost the scheduled win. That's when it gets hard. And now,
clap by Shopify.
And now that they're in playoffs, they know that they don't have extra time to be able to scale and be able to get better. I would still say, hopefully they're able to have some sort of drive and belief. Like if we look back at spring Team Liquid, like their real big ascent into becoming this god team was in playoffs. Or back to last year summer, Energy, they were not good in the regular season then either. And then in playoffs, they had this huge surge and their peak performance of all time, and then going to Worlds and beating G2. So we have very recent examples of teams in this time frame in playoffs having big surges and hitting those peaks anew. But to me, the reason why it's really worrisome for Dignitas is because it is also them just constantly getting beat down in scrims. Literally every player that we have on the show ever who comes in is always laughing about, oh yeah, we just came off a hard night of 6-0 Dignitas scrims. I didn't get much sleep. Or, like everyone's memeing on it, including them. And so if you are constantly losing scrims in addition to stage games, then, oh man, it is really hard to build that momentum that you need. So I think it has to occur in this exact series.
Yeah.
If they don't have a big series here versus 100 Thieves, and I'm going to predict 100 Thieves in this one. We'll see about. We can do our whole playoff brackets actually, maybe. But if Dignitas don't have a big series versus 100 Thieves, I just think it's going to be so hard to build the momentum to have that big surge and hit a new peak.
Yeah, I mean, 100 Thieves also had a much better end to the split, right? They were able to beat Immortals, then they beat Shopify. The series before that, they went 1-2 against FlyQuest. So it's like I feel like they're coming in probably a little bit more momentum, so to speak.
And Tomo's the GOAT.
Yeah. Everyone's
happy. They're having good times.
They have the honeymoon with the new swap and everything. So I feel like vibes are kind of at a good point right now for 100 Thieves, especially like you said, Sniper was feeling really confident on pros. And I felt like when he was on with me, he was feeling like he was doubting himself and he was feeling a lot more negative. And I think, it was like, oh, things were just kind of working in spring, but they're not now. Like, what's wrong? And so it feels like 100 Thieves are kind of having those good vibes right now. And I'm just a River fanboy. I just really think River is so good. And I want to be able to see him succeed. So I think, that's maybe part of it too. I'm maybe a little bit biased towards River because he's such an exciting player, I think. And I'm still just kind of hoping, and it's probably completely unrealistic, but I'm still hoping that we are going to get more of that playmaking jungle mid back that we saw from 100 Thieves in spring that I think made them so incredibly exciting to watch.
So this is a fun discussion because with our new playoff patch having pretty big implications for meta changes with AP mid laners getting buffs, which teams, we should label each team, is this a playoff buff for the patch for them or nerf? Because for sure, this is a Jensen buff, right? Jensen AD carries have been pretty bad. I was going to say something meaner, but I won't.
That was pretty mean. but
his Orianna and Syndra, his Orianna is getting a buff. There was a Reddit post. Orianna her command attack hadn't been buffed in 12 years.
That's crazy.
And yeah, it hasn't.
is a crazy.
It literally hasn't been even.
Sniper wasn't even born.
It hasn't been adjusted in 12 years, and it's getting a buff now. That's got like, if that isn't the most Jensen buff of all time, then I don't know what is.
I think, I don't know, like it. I could be wrong, but I feel like sleeping on Dig in playoffs would just not be a good call for anyone, especially people playing against them, just because all like you kind of reminded me when you were talking about all these players and I was going through looking at their stats. It's like these are some really good players, and you know, I think they're the kind of players who are going to clutch up.
But
right?
why have they not done it yet? That's what
because it doesn't matter. It's regular season, they're in playoffs. It's fine. Who cares?
Isn't it just like the C9 thing from Spring, where like, look at this roster. This roster is so good. Surely this is the week, and then the next week, this is the week for sure. And then the week after that, but dude, this week is looking really good.
These are like the old. I don't know. Like, isn't this kind of what Perks did? And like, I feel like this was an EU thing where you would just kind of like chill the entire season. You know, I mean, this is Jensen and Sven, right? Like They got that EU mentality. They're just like, I don't care, dude. Like, as long as I make playoffs, it's all good. And then they're going to power up. They're going to power up.
Where's Perks now? That worked until it
don't know. But it did work. I don't know. I think Dig will pull it together. I feel like they got good players. And, yeah, I think the changes do probably benefit them.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think... Like, to me, the first things that I thought of were Jensen and Palafox when I saw the mid lane buffs to these mages. So I feel like those are the two that were so good on the mages and have not been good with the adjustments. But that's just mid lane. You know, to the point about River, and I think he is for sure a Vi player. I'm not sure if anyone in this series would actually play the Skarner, but the Skarner is...
Licorice already played it.
Well, I think top lane Skarner is worse, but you're right. Licorice
already played it.
He's on that train, and it's getting better. So if he already
played it, Kobe. If you didn't know,
I know he already played it.
Just letting you know, played it.
I think he is the only top laner that will play it. I think most of them will be jungle, but honestly, I still think it's advantage for Patch to Dignitas off of these changes.
Quid won MVP when it was not 80 carries.
Yeah,
he was the MVP. He was playing.
Yeah, but it wasn't because of Orianna.
No, it wasn't. But his way,
or Syndra.
His way was pretty good. It was like
it was like Yone.
It was Vagar, Ari, Talia.
He's Ari.
They're throwing the Vagar game in there.
Vagar has as many games as Yone.
Yeah, fair enough, but Vagar's not getting any buffs.
I know, but I'm just saying, if the 80 carries mid get nerfed, everything in relation to it is getting buffed, right? Like you are getting closer to being able to be like, oh, if I actually prefer X playstyle and the OPs get nerfed, well, now I'm closer to the top on my Ari or my Talia or my whatever.
Do you think this patch is better for 100 Thieves?
I don't know if it's better comparatively, but I think it's better than the AD patch was for sure. I felt like 100 Thieves was one of the biggest losers as far as the shift in meta to AP farming junglers and stuff. Because again, not because River's bad at it, he's good. If you put him on Cloud9 or Fly or whatever, I think he would do well. But on a team that has weaker laners, which 100 Thieves just does, you want your jungler being proactive and making crazy stuff happen, right? You want them making plays. That's the kind of style that he has to play, and that's the style that he's so good at. But when he's on Brand or Lilia and you're just farming, and then by the time you finish your first full clear, your lanes are dead or behind or whatever, it's like, okay, well, what do I do now?
But Brand and Lilia are untouched, so
yeah,
he might still be...
I'm just hoping that. Well, this is why I was saying even during the regular season, even before any changes, I'm like, this team is just losing playing this style. I just wanted them to go back to just play the champions you played in spring and show me something different, right? Like if this isn't working, I'd rather see you revert to comfort and play something that's not meta but suits you.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's actually going to be a different meta, because we're talking about all this like not 80 carry mid meta, and like I feel like there's still a good chance
just be the same,
it's the exact same stuff, just like Corki, Lucian, and whatnot.
Well, we're not going to get Katarina with the Katarina buffs coming in? No. Yeah.
I can't think of a less likely to show up in pro champ than Katarina.
I saw those changes and I was
What about
like,
Kiana? Let's get some Kiana Rumble, the throwback.
Dude, that's way more like when was the last time Katarina was played in a pro game? Like I can't even remember.
Yeah, not happening.
Let's see.
This matchup is super interesting to me if there are not lane swaps every game. But as that was your first point, and I still am thinking back to that, I'm just like, man, it's like a similar argument for TL doing lane swaps. It's like it just seems like Thanatos should do them because even 100 Thieves themselves have been outspoken, and Sniper's like, I don't like doing lane swaps. I mean, I don't. He's also not that great at doing them. So it definitely seems like it should be a very good strategy, especially if you're looking at like Licorice style champions where his favorite champion is Poppy. Like not very many top laners' favorite champions are tanks. He really likes playing tanks, is good at tanks.
Yeah.
So it does seem like he'll be better on low econ lane swap stuff. And I just hope that that's not what this series comes down to.
Yeah. No, it is hard to argue against a lane swap. If it's lane swaps in every game, I think Dig's probably going to win. If it's not, I feel like 100 Thieves are looking better right now. And, if we're thinking that, if you're thinking that, you would hope that 100 Thieves are thinking that and trying to prepare to try to figure out how they can do it. But lane swaps are complicated and are very difficult to play out, from the player point of view. So it's not necessarily something that you can just like polish that up real quick. It's pretty tough.
All right. The next matchup that we have on our table here, FlyQuest versus Energy. FlyQuest players seemed extremely confident. Like if we're judging like Sniper's confidence as versus Dig as like pretty high, then I think FlyQuest confidence versus Energy is like breaking the meter almost. Does that trigger finally the Energy blue shell bring down overconfident gods hidden passive? It doesn't. They don't have that passive anymore.
No, it's gone, man. It's dead.
I think they had their spoiler.
Okay, how about this then? All right, I'm not even gonna play around with that narrative. Then I've got another backup one right here.
Backup narrative.
And this is actually Energy patch more so than any other team because they were so bad at the previous ones. And as much as I was like, oh yeah, Jensen wasn't very good on the ADs, I think Palafox's drop-off was probably the biggest.
The 20% Tristana win rate, the 0% Lucian win rate.
Yeah, his drop-off was probably the biggest of any player with the meta shift. So Energy patch coming in might be the biggest rise for any player, directly buffing his Syndra. He loves Syndra and Orianna and Azir all getting buffs.
Here's my problem with Energy is they just never look like they're on the same page. This team from early on in the split has looked like they're completely mental boom. I feel like it is internal issues 100%. I feel like these players just either, whether or not it's like a get along thing, they clearly don't see the game the same way and have not been able to reconcile that throughout the entire split. And I just can't see that being fixed by a patch because that more than anything has been what has been so stark when I'm watching Energy is, two players are flashing forward to hard engage and someone else is recalling, and it's like, it always seems so stark that it's so obvious they are not on the same page and they almost never feel like they're on the same page this split, which is what just kills me.
And the two players flashing forward to engage are engaging on different people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh man.
Like the Yone game, I think it was this last week, absolutely was killing me. And it was just like, there were like contracts would like Tokyo drift and get the Sejuani ult on the 80 carry, and then Palafox would like be ulting that way. Dokul would be basing, FBI would be like killing Raptor, just like, and they were playing this comp where it was like, I think it was that one comp where they had Yone, I want to say Yone Rumble Sejuani, and they had all these dive tools, and not once in the entire game did they use all of their dive tools on the same person. And every single time it would be like Sejuani plus Rumble go on this guy. Yone goes on that guy. Okay. Yone plus Sejuani go on this guy. Okay. Rumble goes on that guy. Not once. It was just, that one was hard to watch for me because it was just like you drafted a comp specifically that is supposed to have all these tools to work together. Sejuani plus double melee solo lanes, all these dive buddies. You hit the perfect Sejuani ult and still we're missing every Yone ult. We're not going on the same people. This team just looks so disjointed that I can't imagine that they could have, like, I wouldn't bet on them to beat anybody in playoffs. I'm definitely not betting on them to beat FlyQuest.
Yeah, I think FlyQuest are so heavily favored in this one across the board. It's even though at the beginning of the episode I'm like, critiquing FlyQuest through the lens of being one of our top 3 teams in the
as
top,
a championship contender.
exactly in the top tier, but versus Energy, it just feels so overwhelming, honestly. Especially, I feel like I've been on this like quad hype train because even in their games versus Cloud9, like his Lucian, I felt like was such a point of priority, and he was doing so well. Even not to mention the solo kill onto JoJo. I feel like with what we have seen recently, it should be really big mid lane priority for FlyQuest. And unless Contracts ganks and kills quad, which I think should be the game plan for Energy, I think they should like full send, level 2 gank, level 3 gank, and like get Power Fox an early kill and get that mid matchup flipped. Especially if they think that the trend is going to continue where inspired jungle proximity around mid stays pretty low. I think that it should be a very good opening for Energy, or at least they should try that. But it doesn't, with what we've seen, it doesn't seem like that is going to be the case. And then you're looking at the bottom lane, you're like, wow, Massu has been amazing, and Massu Busio combo is also going to have priority. And then you're looking at top lane, and you're like, well, Bwipo also probably going to have priority, or he's going to be playing one of his tanks where he was, even the Nautilus game where everyone is like making fun of him for dying, myself included, for dying in the Ornn, versus the Ornn play there and messing up Inspired's jungle.
That was me. I was able.
Yeah, I was.
At least I was.
Because he messed up the junglers, gameplay. I really felt for Inspired. Yeah. But even in that game, prior to that, like he had earned 3 turret plates by himself in the Nautilus, Ornn matchup, tank pressure. And so you're just like, oh man, across the board, then we're theoretically getting ourselves into a game where FlyQuest are playing with 2 or 3 winning pushing lanes for Inspired. And you're just like, wow, that seems very hard for Energy to win. And so I'm hoping that Energy do find their like old CLG passive and just go ballistic on them. Contracts turbo ganking early to try and upset FlyQuest's game plan, and don't let them have all 3 winning lanes with turbo farming jungler and picking up all the objectives. I think they have to like create action in order to create a win in this series.
I mean, it's hard to do that though nowadays because Energy was a team that benefited a lot from early ganks and whatnot. The Contracts, that is one of his fortes as a player, but it's just a lot harder to do nowadays. I mean, coming into this season, there was the terrain changes, top lane
experience buffs for jungle camps.
Yeah, I mean, top lane is a lot hard to gank. Like even mid, the bushes.
Side lane brush on mid, it made it so.
Yeah,
harder.
I mean even if you want to play to gank heavily, like it's just not necessarily even an option, especially with super safe champions being played, like we touched on earlier. So it's just hard, The reality is, if your laners are just worse, like I don't know how you win. I really don't. You gotta like just play some crazy strong champion and just pop off like some brand type stuff, like we've seen Boogie do. I feel like that's like one of your best options. I don't know. Like Energy just looks so dead in the water. Like I don't know.
It's tough, right? But you can see the ways in which they would do it is the ways in which we've had them have success before. And it's kind of like when you're talking about a dig, right? You're like, okay, I know these players can hit a certain level. Can they do it now? But then when you're looking at it's my doubts for dig were the same as my doubts for Energy, but Energy just has a much harder matchup where it's just like you have to get back to this level that you have shown us that you can't get to all split, right? So they have to kind of be able to show us something that they haven't shown us in quite a long time.
Yeah, I think Energy. I don't know. Watching Energy games is just.
I think it's a 3-0 for FlyQuest.
It is so non-confident inspiring watching Energy play. I don't know what's going on there. I think
it would have to be contrary to logic for them to win this series.
I mean, that is literally the one hopium you have is Energy.
Blue shell.
It's the blue shell thing. It's that their best when everyone thinks they suck, and they've been setting that one up real well, all split. But I don't know, dude. I think the fact that they didn't spoil TL's series and they just got rolled, even when they had their protagonist buff going on, is just like they've actually lost their plot armor. Well, I mean, we'll see. Maybe it comes back, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Our argument is, what if they weren't bad?
Then we could have a really good series on our hands here.
There we go.
It's going to be, I think, a fun first week of playoffs. I think the first match is actually going to be really, really competitive. And assuming FlyQuest wins, they would then be going on to have a best of 5 against C9, which would be really, really hype. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people have been talking about, the top 3 versus the bottom 3 is so one-sided. But I'm looking at the bracket, and I think when I did a quick once over, it's like if favorites all win, we're going to basically get, I think, 4 best ofs between some combination of TL, C9, and FlyQuest. And all those should be really, really exciting. That's so cool. Even if there's not any big upsets, in round 2 upper bracket, we'd get, C9, Fly. Then we'd get one in like lower bracket, we'd get one in grand finals, and so on and so forth. So, at the very least, we'd get like 3 or 4 series between those teams, I think, which should be all really, really exciting, even if they end up beating up on the other teams. And hopefully we'll get some upsets. Hopefully we'll get some kind of surprise series. I feel like you always do in playoffs. Like things don't always just go everything to shock. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty excited for the playoffs.
So energy, huh?
Could be energy. Could be dig season after all. Maybe it's dig season and TL's in the lower bracket.
Could be. Definitely will be exciting. I have been a super big fan just of that change to our playoffs bracket where it rewards the good teams by giving them upper bracket lives as well as possibilities of going to lower bracket. But then, like you're saying, we also just get to watch them play more.
Yep.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get a lot of matches. Yeah, we get the upper bracket one. We get another upper bracket one right after that between 2 winners. We'd get a loser bracket one then on the Saturday match, and then we get the grand finals one on the Sunday finals match. So yeah, we should get 4 series between those teams. Or upsets, and who knows. So either way, playoffs is going to be really, really exciting. I'm looking forward to it, and that is going to wrap it up for us here on The Dive, driven by Kia. Remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode of The Dive. You can also check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the other podcast platforms, and make sure you send us your questions on Twitter with the hashtag TheDiveLOL. If you have any playoff takes or anything you'd want us to answer going into next week, hit us up with those then. Round 1 of playoffs starts this Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific. Dig takes on 100. Make sure to tune in. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all soon.